Tonight we're going to be looking at Exodus, the last portion of 32. We're going to start at verse 7 and then go from there. And this is just a quick reminder. The first part was when the children of Israel had started missing Moses. He'd been up in the mountains almost 40 days. And they said, "Who is this guy? We don't even know who he is, where he's from, or anything like that." So they started dismissing some. Now, I did read a little bit of commentary today that some of them was given the benefit of the doubt that something happened to him. You know, he's up there and lightnings and all this thing's going on, and he may have been killed or whatever. But then the others weren't. They just started forgetting him, and that's when they said they wanted a golden calf, make us a golden calf. And Aaron just capitulated rather quickly. He wasn't the leader of it. He wasn't the one that thought of it, but yet he didn't stop it. And that's where he kind of went into it. And when he made it, once he made it, they were so proud of him, and then or so complimentary, and then he was proud of what he did. And that's wrong too. I mean, he just got into that. So they was going down all through this, and it said they rose up to play, which what we talked about last week is more sex play than anything else. The way they drunken orgy, pretty much, is what they were having, because they've also built an altar, and then they just started partying. So verse 7 starts out, and the Lord said unto Moses, "Go, get thee down, for thy people which thou broughtest out of the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They have made them a molten calf, and have worshipped it, and have sacrificed thereunto, and said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which have brought thee up out of the land of Egypt." Now, what do you think Moses' response is? What? They did what? They're what? Yeah. And of course, this is God telling Moses what to write down for the first 5 books that he had written, just as Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. So but to me, those are the very same words. God heard the words that they said down there on the mountain, and is telling Moses, now this is what they wanted. And your brother, he didn't really say it that way, went ahead and agreed and did it.
Well, I like that where he said, thy people.
Thy people, yeah. They ain't my people no more.
Which you brought up.
That's right. And that gets in a little bit more here in just a minute. Do you want to read verse 9 and 10, Brother Epperson?
And the Lord said unto Moses, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Now therefore let me alone, that my wrath may wax hot against them, and that I may consume them, and I will make of thee a great nation.
So this is God speaking, telling Moses, Moses is still in shock, and he's telling him, now just stand aside, get out of the way. I'm going to throw a lightning bolt down there and take care of those people. I'm going to raise up somebody from you, like Abraham, rose up from you. That's what I'm going to do. I mean, he was giving him not really an option, but he's saying, this is what I'm going to do.
Well, look, they even said these gods, this God we just made, they're the ones that brought us out of the
Yeah, exactly.
completely. I mean,
they had already forgotten the Red Sea, the 10 plagues, the manna, the water, all these different things they had forgotten. And it had been, like we said, I think, when I hadn't gone back to look at it, I think they said it was about 6 months out, 4 to 6 months out from the actual leaving. he was up there 40 days, which is less than 2 months. I mean, that's a month and a week, and a half. So, yeah, it's a long time, and he didn't tell them how long he was going to be gone because he didn't know. God just said, come up to the mountain. And he did. He followed after him. So he said, this is a stiff-necked people. What do you think that means? What do you get when you get a stiff neck? Can't turn your head very much, can you? It kind of hurts to turn it. And that's what he's saying. They've been in Egypt for 40 years, or 400 years, over 400 years. And they can't see past the idols that's there. They keep wanting to go back to the idols. They were so enamored of those. So it's just one of those things that that's why he called them a stiff-necked people. They were rebelling against him from the very beginning. They had the 10 plagues, and then as soon as they got out, they got up against the Red Sea, and they said, oh, he brought us out here to kill us in front of the Egyptians, to let them kill us. And then after they got past that, the Red Sea, he brought us out here to die, to starve to death because we don't have anything. Oh, I wish we just had the onions and the radishes or whatever, leeks and everything that they had back. That was so good. Those vegetables were so good that they had back then. And he gave them bread, and then they couldn't drink for a while. They didn't have any good water. We're talking about 2 million people. We have to keep that in mind too. I know it's a lot, but God provided for them. And he provided for them for the 40 years. As we go through, we'll see that. He kept providing through them. Even though they went up and said, no, we're not ready to go into the promised land. Well, we haven't got there yet, but we will here in a few weeks. So that's why he's saying they keep going down their same path. They are not learning for whatever reason.
Well, it's unknown. So I think that's part of it. A lot of people don't like to put down past it's unknown.
It is. It
it's
is.
Unknown.
And that's why we hate change.
Yeah.
Almost everybody. Nobody likes change.
No.
Very few people like change at all because it interrupts your life. It interrupts your habits. It interrupts, things that you're used to. Well, I was going to do this today. I always do it on Monday. I always wash clothes on Monday. I always sweep the floors on Monday. Or whatever you do, always mow the grass on Monday. And then something upsets the cattle, what you do, and then, oh crap, now I got to rearrange my whole week, to get all this done. And I mean, it is. It's so laughable to us but that's the way we are.
Yeah, we do.
We do it. I mean, it just throws me in a tizzy. That's all
Wonder
it
how many
is.
times when he told Moses, get out of the way, buddy.
Yeah, that's what he's telling you. Just move on out of the way. I'm going to take care of this problem. So that's what he said. Let me alone, that my wrath may burn hot against him. God did not ask for an opinion or Moses to participate in this in any manner.
Or permission for any reason.
That's right. So the impression was if Moses did nothing, it was going to go ahead. He's going to go ahead. Okay. Iris, would you read 11 through 13?
How about
Bertha, you got your mask on, okay.
Okay.
11 through 13.
I wasn't here last week, so I'm going to read it from my phone.
Okay. Oh, you need a copy with you? Okay.
That's all right. I can probably read it. And Moses besought the Lord his God and said, Lord, why doeth thy wrath wax hot against thy people, which thou hast brought forth out of the land of Egypt with great power and with mighty hand? Wherefore should the Egyptians speak and say, for mischief did he bring them out, to slay them in the mountains, and to consume them from the face of the earth? Turn from thy fierce wrath, and repent of this evil against thy people. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, thy servant, to whom thou sworest by thine own self, and saidst unto them, I will multiply your seed as the stars of heaven, and all this land that I have spoken of I will give unto your seed, and they shall inherit it all forever.
So Moses didn't stay quiet. Sometimes, it's kind of hard to say this, but sometimes if we feel we need to say something on things, certain things, Moses said this, and he was saying it to God. Okay? He besought him. Why why you get so mad at them? They've already done this stuff, we know. But look at it from our side. The Egyptians are going to say, oh, he just took them out there and he wiped them out. You know, that's all he wanted to do. So for mischief, he did bring them out to slay them and consume them from the face of the earth. Moses said, turn your fierce wrath and repent this evil against thy people. Then he tells them, remember what you told Abraham, Isaac. You know, God told him that, I'm going to make you the new guy. And he said, no, wait a minute, you can't do that. You made a promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, Jacob, that you had a promise. And you think God needed that? God knew that. I think he did all this to see what Moses would do. That's my opinion.
That Moses would see what he would do.
Well, I think that well, God knows what he's going to do. But to see what Moses would do, to see how he would react, because he's the leader of these people. And he's, you know, how he's going to treat them as he gets down there, how Moses is going to look at him, look at the people, and see how they can get forward. Because it was a test, and I don't say God did it; He allowed it to happen, like He allows several things to happen. Sometimes not good to us, to see how we react. Are we going to trust Him or are we not? It's not going to be a candy-land walk through this life. There will be things that come up against us, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to get harder as we go. We know the days are drawing short, and we've already seen. I was reading yesterday, I guess it was, that if you stand up in Australia and don't take the shot, don't take the vaccine, or you don't do any of the other mandates, they take you out, put you in a concentration camp, basically. And that's happening. At least that's what they say. So just think if that was here. That could be very easily what would happen. Now, we can comply, and that's fine, because there are certain things, it's no big deal. Okay, I'll go ahead and go along with it. But when does it stop? When does it start? Okay, you can't go to church the way California did. You got to close it off. Oh, you can still go to Home Depot. 500 people go to Home Depot, but you can't go to church. Now that's not right.
That's dictatorship.
It's telling people what to do. Yeah, and that's not right. So we start looking at that, and we have to make a choice in our lives. It's like when David, he was anointed king, but it was several years before he became king. He was running for his life most of the time because Saul was trying to kill him, hiding in caves and everything like this. But yet Samuel had anointed him king of Israel, and it's just like, oh, well, it ought to just fall all into place. Well, it did, but there was a lot of pit holes and things along the way before it happened. So so Moses refused to do nothing. He didn't say, well, whatever God will do, God will do. But he pleaded with God not to do it. He says, your people whom you brought out of Egypt, in this prayer, Moses first gave the people back to God. God kind of put it on him. Your people that you brought out from Egypt. And it was their people. Now, they were Jews or they were Israelites, and they were God's people, but he was in charge of them. So Moses rightly turns it back and says, no, these are your people. Why are you getting so mad at these people? Because one, they are people that will do stupid things. And they have just done a stupid thing. Okay?
We can do stupid things.
Oh, sure, we do that all the time.
Yeah, but they was, I take it a step further than just doing a stupid thing. When they made that, golden calf and they was talking about it, that, like in verse 8.
Well,
These be thy gods, O Israel, which have brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. I mean, they were turning their back basically on the Most High God.
They were. But what about Aaron? He was right there with them.
Yeah.
And, he was already, quote, he hadn't heard this yet from Moses because they hadn't come down off the mountain to tell him what had happened. But he was going to be the high priest. He was going to be the one that's going to lead the people in worship of God.
Well, I relate this to like somebody backsliding,
Yeah.
turning away from God, and that's how I relate that.
Well, they had lived, and I keep saying 400 years. Let's put it, they'd lived their whole lifetime, the Israelites that was there. So 40, 50, 60, 70 years in Egypt. All they had known was the Egyptian ways. Now, that's not to say that they didn't still practice some of the praying and things like that they were supposed to do. But God hadn't instituted a lot of those yet. That's what's happening now up on the mountain. Setting up the tabernacle, doing the sacrifice. Now, they'd already done sacrifices. We talked about that all the way back. Noah and even Adam did some sacrifices. Cain and Abel did sacrifices to God. So sacrifices was already instituted. But he's starting to tell them many more things that they're going to do as they go forward as a people to set them apart. The main thing that had set them apart so far was circumcision. Back with Abraham. That had set when the people came together. And they said, I'm going to make a nation of you, Abraham, but yet I want to make, and that's what got onto Moses. God, remember when we got on there, when they started leading the people, and Zipporah jumped up and said, you bloody, you make me a bloody person because you didn't even get yourself sacrificed or, circumcised, and the sons sacrificed when they should have been. I keep saying sacrificed, circumcised, sorry. So yeah, it's I said silly or stupid, but it's really
don't you think
more
too
than that.
That in all this process that God was showing Israel that they needed the Ten Commandments, they needed some direction.
Exactly.
Because one of the first things they did right here was build that and the second commandment, thou shalt have no other gods before me. And again, sometimes we feel safer with list, but the problem with list is if you get into something it's not covered, what do you do?
Yeah.
But all these things have principles, and that's what instead of putting our emphasis on the principles, we put it on if we do this. But they needed some guidelines.
You needed some, yeah, they did.
Like you said, they didn't have that up to this time.
No, they had some, like we said, to help set them apart from the other people.
There were also more rituals at that time than they were guidelines.
Well, it was just heritages that's passed down. They hadn't set it in order, and that's what God's doing. He's setting all of this in order for them, with the Ten Commandments, and then all the rules for the judges, and all that we covered all up until now.
It's a lot for them to take it at one time.
It is, but still, they had that with the Egyptians. They couldn't go certain places where in the Egyptian territory. They were in the land of Goshen, which was pretty much where they were supposed to stay and tend their sheep, because the Egyptians hated the sheep herders and all these things that we've talked about before. So, they knew certain things, but it was still their whole lives they had seen this happening. And then the last 6 months, say, they've seen these miracles happen, and it just it left them. And it's kind of like us today. Well, okay, what's next? You've occupied my time for 30 minutes this morning with the message, or 40 minutes, and I'm going home with the same thing. Well, that's not what it's supposed to be about. It's supposed to emphasize, supposed to bring something in us to make a change in what we do. And that's to hopefully now with the good news make more disciples. Okay? Verse 14. Would you read that for us, Connie?
And the Lord repented of the evil which he thought to do unto his people.
So God answered Moses' prayer, said God was going to destroy the nation. All Moses had to do was leave God alone and let him do it. But Moses didn't. He labored and intercessed with the Lord according to what he knew of the heart of God. Now, he was brought up in Pharaoh's household, but yet he was still brought up as an Israelite. So he knew about Abraham and the sacrifices that he was going to make, the sacrifice of Isaac, his son, all these things that had happened. He knew about this. And when God was proposing to him, you're going to lead my people out of Egypt, that's what he said. I can't do that. I'm not the leader of blah, 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 as he was going forward. But God still trusted in him, God still wanted him to do this. That's why it says he did what he knew the heart of God was. And here again, we talked about a couple of weeks ago, or maybe last week, we tend to put our emotions onto God. When it says, so the Lord relented or repented of the evil which he thought to do, it says in the King James Version, this phrase is translated, the Lord repented of the evil which he had thought to do unto his people. Based on this, some believe God sometimes need to repent of evil. But if you look at other versions of translations, and we know that sometimes the words aren't quite the same. Okay, that NIV, then the Lord relented. Okay. The New American Standard says, so the Lord changed his mind about the harm which he had said he would do to his people. The Amplified said, the Lord turned from the evil which he had thought to do. And the one I like best is the Septuagint, which is the Vulgate or the Latin version. It's an earlier version of ours. The Lord was moved with compassion to save his people. To me, that's what it's mean. He really wanted to do this. He wanted to teach them a lesson, okay? Because they were it's kind of like an unruly child. You get tired of it, and, the child starts throwing a fit in the store or whatever. And I've seen some people, they just look at them and they said, okay, we're going to stop right here. We're not going to do anything else until you quit. Because we're not having this in the store. And they're like, what? Sometimes they'll cry for a little longer, and sometimes they won't. I'm not saying it won't work every time, but it's like, you set your foot down, you say, you're not going to do this. And that helps because it's setting boundaries.
Yeah.
It's
to be God's people.
You've got to
That's it right there.
You've got to be able to do this. And that's why it said the Lord was moved with compassion to save his people. He had already wiped out the world with the flood, with Noah. And then the evil still came back, okay? Because evil's still in the world because of original sin. And even before Noah passed away, their sin had already started again. We'll rehash all that, but Abraham set a standard for worshiping God, and that made him the father of many nations. God recognized him for that. And as they go forward, that's what Moses is still. This is my people. This is what you said. We say he reminded God. God didn't need reminding. He's reminding himself, telling God, I think, that you said you was going to do this, and if you wipe them out, then people aren't going to believe you. That you're going to do this. So
I like that down there. Of course, I'm
oh,
it said that Moses wrote things from a man-centered language.
right.
And really, when we talk about God being infinite, we can't comprehend that.
No,
we
no.
can look it up in the dictionary. We can talk about it, but we are finite, and
Right.
we cannot comprehend God. Again, His ways are so much higher than our ways.
When you was a child, you may or may not have thought, man, I got the meanest parents in the world. But you got a little bit older, and you said, man, they're pretty smart. They kept me from a lot of trouble. And even though we look at it, it's different viewpoints. That's the way we see it. Just as Brother Epson said, and it says there, it's that big long word, anthropomorphic. That means we can't even understand. All we know is we were made in the image of God. We don't even really know what that means. But we can't fathom what God is, what he does, anything. I mean, you can think of it, he created the universe. Right now, I keep reading about 14 million light years away, they just saw something happen in the universe. I'm like, he did that. And it's just like, how we can even comprehend that, how far that is, and yet we think we can solve a little problem here on earth, and we can't. So, he tries to put what we can understand into, something that he can pass along to the people. And just like I said, that man-centered language is a good
It's just
example.
like when we talk about God creating the earth in 7 days, we can't really comprehend that.
No.
Because, the other day I see a spider running across the floor or something, and I smashed it. But I thought, God made that spider.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I was thinking a lot about death, ours, because so many people today, for their own benefit, believe that when you die, it's just all over. Okay, like I smashed that spider, okay. But then to think about God's awesomeness and how he created all the different stuff. Not just the creation, just the earthly material creation.
Oh, yeah.
And then complicate the matter by his biological creation. It's just our mind, it's overload. We have to have an answer why.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I don't know. I guess God's instilled us in it this, or I don't know.
Well, curiosity, yeah.
We have to have an answer why. In some, there's just not. We have to take it by faith.
Right. Some of it we can't understand. It's like, well, this is quantum physics. You ain't going to understand that. I just read the other day, another thing on the internet. They just found, and they called it a body of water, but it's not really a body of water. They have found out in space that there is water just floating around in space, and it's humongous. And I'm like, it'd be like little pellets of water. But that's what he said. He separated the waters from up here to the waters down here. So he coalesced, there's going to be water out there. That's what God said. That's what he said in the beginning.
Water in heaven, we're going to eat and drink.
Oh, yeah. There was another little joke, funny, that I heard the other day, said this professor had talked to the people, or I guess he was actually, he was a professor, but he was talking at a church and said, okay, we've done everything now. We've even been able to make man from dust, and he left the conference or wherever he was at, and came out, and God said, "Okay, what's this I hear about you making man?" He said, "Oh yeah, we've already done all that. We've made man from dust." He said, "Okay, well show me." He says, "Okay," and he starts getting down and puts dust together. He goes, "Oh no, you go get your own dust. I created that dust. You go create what you want, to make man." And that's what it is. I mean, it's just like, yeah, he did everything. We created matter.
Sometimes people, that weakens some people's faith, but to me it just strengthens my faith.
No.
When I consider all the questions, I don't have the answers, and I may never have it maybe in heaven, but then it won't make any difference.
Right.
But they're just because there has to be somebody had to start all of this, and nobody can, and God did it.
That's right. Janet, would you read 15 through 18 for us? There's a lot of information in here. We're not going to be able to go through all of it, so you can take it home and read it. But.
And Moses turned and went down from the mount, and the two tables of the testimony were in his hand. The tables were written on both their sides, on the one side and on the other were they written. And the tables were the work of God, and the writing was the writing of God, graven upon the tables. And when Joshua heard the noise of the people as they shouted, he said to Moses, "There is a noise of war in the camp." And he said, "It is not the voice of them that shout for mastery, neither is it the voice of them that cry for being overcome, but the noise of them that sing do I hear."
So God had written down the 10 Commandments, and he had 2 tables of stone. Most of the time we're seeing it, and it's 1 through 5s on this side, and 6 through 10s on that. But that's not. It says written on both sides. It was they and on the other were written both tables. And I was trying to find it here. I guess it's a little bit later. We'll talk about that in just a second. But they were made. God made these tables for them, and they were the work of God, because it says the writing was the writing of God upon the graven. A little bit later, it talks about the finger of God. That's what I was going to say. So he gets down, and Joshua, his servant, for 40 days, he's been about halfway up the mountain, because him and Joshua, Moses and Joshua went up, and he told Joshua to stay here. So he's out there by himself. Now he can eat manna. He's getting food there, things like that for 40 days and 40 nights. But he hears this ruckus down there. Joshua is a leader. He's a military type leader. He had been in charge, or is put in charge of this. So he thinks they're getting attacked. He's hearing a noise, and he's telling Moses, "There's something going on down there." And then Moses said, "No, God told me it wasn't." They know it's singing, and they're having themselves a good time, which they really shouldn't be. It says all the law and morality must come from God's standard and character, or be up to the opinion of changing values of men. As we go, that's what they're saying today. Well, the Constitution was written 200 years ago. The Declaration of Independence, that don't have anything to do with this today. Well, it does. That's why they spent so much time writing it and going through it. They, as we've talked about in some of your sermons, that many of them trusted God. They said, "Let's go," and it's related to the 10 Commandments. Many of the things that's in there.
But a side note there's many people, and during that time, and that since it's been written, people from other countries have said that that's one of the greatest documents, natural ever written, is because of what it all encompasses. And change, but to add not, to clarify.
Clarify, yeah. Because it doesn't address everything. And it's one of the things that you can look at a law and you can look at it two ways. You can look, okay, what can I do to keep myself from breaking that law? Or what a lot of the people do, what can I do to get around that law? Still not break it, but still do what I want to do. And that's right. That's exactly what's happening today. And to do that, they will say, "Oh, that word, that there's not a thee there in that word or in that sentence or whatever the word is. So you don't need that. Or that word's not defined. It needs to be defined for us. So we have to go define it." When it's like everybody in the world knows what that word means. But
Well, the definition is.
yeah, that's that. I'll go there. But Joshua thought it was the noise of war, and he just had to be corrected. It was a war. It was a spiritual war. It wasn't the one that was going on. He thought that somebody was coming up on him. Let's see, 19 and 21. Harold, gonna read those for us?
And it came to pass, as soon as he came nigh unto the camp, that he saw the calf and the dancing, and Moses' anger waxed hot, and he cast the tables out of his hands and brake them beneath the mount. And he took the calf which they had made, and burned it in the fire, and ground it to powder, and strawed it upon the water, and made the children of Israel drink it. And Moses said unto Aaron, What did this people unto thee, that thou hast brought so great a sin upon them?
So now,
I was looking at that from the human standpoint.
yeah,
Just a few minutes ago,
he's wondering, why are you so mad at them? And then he comes down there and he's like, oh, okay, I see. You guys are so crazy. So he throws the tablets out of his hand and casts them down and breaks that. So Israel broke the covenant that they'd said just before the 40 days. He'd said, we will do that. He went up and talked to God. They heard God say what it was, and they said, yes, we will do that. And then they already broke it. So they broke that covenant. So Moses's kind of acted out breaking the covenant by throwing the tablets down and breaking the stones. Said, but no, nevertheless, Moses had to deal with anger through much of his life. Moses got angry. He did. Sometimes people have that problem too. Moses killed an Egyptian. All right, that's what started this battle. I mean, that's one we heard about. Later on, he of course breaks these tablets here, and then later on, he doesn't speak to the rock; he hits it. He was told the first time to hit it, the next time to speak to it. Sometimes when we get frustrated, we do things that we don't really think about. We're human. We don't think about how it sounds or anything like. We just lash out, and we have to. I mean, that's what's being human is about. But that's part of what God is trying to mold us to His image.
I like it because Moses chastised Aaron here.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, Aaron, why did you do this? Why did you allow this? I mean, it's like, okay, he knew that Aaron shouldn't have, been gullible, so to speak. I can't think of a good word, but
He was his older brother, and he's like, what part of this? What
and the priesthood was coming down through him.
That's right. That's right. So he threw this down. He also took the calf and he broke it up, smashed it all to pieces, burned it in fire, and then ground it to a powder and threw it out on the water and made them drink it.
It's kind of like this to a pastor and the church flock, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
For sometimes what, you know, the flock goads them into doing, or whatever
Right.
you want to say.
Right. You have to have a strong leader to, and I've had, you know, both types or all types, several types, I'll say it that way. And some of them just want to manipulate you the way they want things to go. And some people allow God to lead people. But yet you have to have a strong person or strong constitution, will to do what God wants you to do. And sometimes that's wrong. You know, you have to say, hey, that's wrong. I'm sorry. You know, if you don't quit doing that, we're gonna have to do something about it. So that's the way we do it with. I hope that's the way we do with children. You know, is raising them up. Like we sometimes you have to find something that gets through to them. You know, whacking them on the bottom don't get through to them. So you have to take something away or set them in a corner or whatever works for that child. Not every child's the same, but you have to do something that gets that child's attention that they did something wrong. That's what God does with us. Sometimes when we, you know, something bad happens to us, we have to go, why did this happen to me? Well, you wasn't listening to me, so I had to put you in a place where you could listen to me. So he made them drink that gold, basically, sprinkled out on there. And he said to the people, what did this people do to you that you have brought so great a sin upon them? He was mad at Aaron. He was. It's like, what in the world are you thinking? You shouldn't have. What did Aaron say? And Aaron said, let not the anger of my Lord wax hot. Thou knowest the people, that they are set on mischief. For they said unto me, make us gods which shall go before us, for as this Moses, the man that brought us up out of Egypt, we wot not what is become of him. And I said unto them, whosoever hath any gold, let them break it off. So they gave it to me, and I cast it in the fire, and his calf came out. Okay.
Kind of like he's not guilty, but guilty.
No, it was he put it in. Who's that remind you of? It's not my fault.
Yeah, exactly.
It didn't happen on my watch. I was totally, you know.
I didn't hear nothing on mine.
Yeah, it's just like some of these things. It's just like that's just crazy. Why he would even think that? But that's what a child does when you start.
Not my fault.
Yeah.
I didn't.
I don't know. What are you talking about? I didn't do that. If you sitting there, I see it in your hand. Okay, you just scribbled on my wall or whatever.
Hunter and Jared, Hunter and Cody were small. I had their rig.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they lived over by Big Bend at the time. And so they took that pickup over there. So I went over one day and the front windshield glasses, the back, most of the winches got broken in the wreck, but the front windshield was busted out of it, and it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So come to find out, Hunter, he said, well, Cody did it.
Yeah.
He said, I told him I wouldn't do that if I was you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Cody did it anyway, but that's where Hunter stopped.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then Cody later on told me the rest of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Papa, I did too. But after I corrected,
Hunter broke it. Yeah, Hunter broke it.
You know, that's how people are today.
Yeah, that's right. We don't want to take blame for anything. I don't want to say well, it is a human reaction. It's not a normal reaction, but to us it is. God does not want us to do that. But it's I don't want to take any responsibility for it. That's not mine. I didn't do that. I wasn't in charge of that. Yeah, those guys did it. And that's what Aaron was trying to say. Oh, they come on to me and I thought they were gonna kill me. So I just said, okay, break off your, do all this. And it's just human nature that makes us not want to push back or not want to, when everybody else is doing it, the majority, it's hard to go against the crowd. One of the things I like, I don't know, I've talked to you a couple times about the movie or the shows, The Chosen. The little, it's on based on Jesus's life, but the little symbol they have is a bunch of fish swimming around in a circle,
Oh, I saw that
and there's
today.
one fish
I saw that
swimming
today.
backwards. They're swimming against the crowd, and that's what it is. We're swimming against the human nature.
I saw that.
That's what God. To follow God means to go against human nature most of the time.
That human nature is fallen.
It is.
It's
fallen.
broken. And the only way we can fix it is through Christ.
That's right. Well, let's go ahead and go through these last parts. We still have several pages, but 25, and when Moses saw that the people were naked, okay, we didn't get that before, but we kind of get it all together now. For Aaron had made them naked unto their shame among the enemies. Aaron, what in the world are you thinking about? You know. Then Moses stood in the gate of the camp and said, whoever is on the Lord's side, let him come unto me. And all the sons of Levi gathered themselves together unto him. So they kind of repented themselves. Now, I can see, we talk about this, but we got 2 million people. Not all 2 million people was participating. That's my opinion. Because right here, you see these Levites, they went over immediately, or when Moses said go over there, they went over. So I just see that, you know, there's a group of them that wanted to do this, no matter how many, no whatever, but they started participating and the party just started growing. And I'm sure there's some of them, like I said, I don't think I'd do that if I was you, but they did anyway. But they stood back and they didn't push back for the people to try to get them back, but they did. So all of them gathered together, the sons of Levi, and says, he said unto them, thus saith the Lord God of Israel, put every man his sword by his side, go in and out from the gate to gate throughout the camp, slay every man his brother, and every man his companion, and every man his neighbor. And the children of Levi did according to the word of Moses, and there fell of the people that day about 3,000 men. For Moses had said, consecrate yourselves today to the Lord, even every man upon his son and upon his brother, that he may bestow upon you a blessing this day. So some of them may have even had to kill family because that's what it was cost. Now, we look at that's terrible, 3,000 people. Yes, but look at the 3,000 out of the 2 million. I'm not saying life's not precious, it is, but that's still a minuscule amount of people that, because of all this, God showed them, hey, I'm serious. Now, God didn't do that. Moses is the one that precipitated this, but God was going to wipe them all out. But these people came upon him and they said, okay, we'll do this. And they did.
You know, so many times, even the majority is willing to go along with the minority.
Right.
Than cause
any ruckus.
It happens in churches sometimes with pastors, and, you know,
happens in town. I mean, look at Portland and all those cities back there. You have a few people that want to riot and, you know, steal and do all whatever they want to do, and that's what they did. But the majority of people, I'm sure, didn't. The shop owners sure didn't, because they're destroying their livelihood and all these things. And that's just that nature. It's hard to go against them when you have that many. If you don't have people on your side, have other people with you. But we don't want to speak up. That's part of it. Verse 30, and it came to pass on the morrow that Moses said unto the people, ye have sinned a great sin. Now I go up unto the Lord. Peradventure I shall make an atonement for your sin. And then 31, and Moses returned to the Lord and said, oh, this people have sinned a great sin and have made them gods of gold. Yet now, if thou wilt forgive their sin, and if not, blot me, I pray thee, out of thy book which thou hast written. So Moses placed himself in with the people. He said, please, at least, if you're you're gonna block them out, block me out too. Because he had already said he's gonna make him the leader of this new nation. But Moses said, no, I don't want that. I don't even, if you're gonna blot anybody out, let us be able to repent, basically is what he's saying. So the verse 33 said, and the Lord said unto Moses, whosoever hath sinned against me, him will I blot out of my book. Therefore now go, lead the people unto the place in which I have spoken unto thee. Behold, mine angel shall go before thee. Nevertheless, in the day when I visit, I will visit their sin upon them. And the Lord plagued the people because they made the calf which Aaron made. So it wasn't just the 3,000 people. God instituted more. The ones that was dancing around and, I think they were still partying while Moses tried to talk. They went after those people. But the others may have sinned too. We don't know how many, but others may have sinned. And here they said they call that the 3,000 already mentioned. It says this probably describes the death of the 3,000. Well, one of them is talking about the Levites killing them, and now this is talking about God bringing a plague on them. So I see that that's more people than myself. But so God's telling them, I'm going to punish their sin, punish them for their sin, because they have to realize there's a consequence of sin.
We will be judged for sin.
That's right. That's right.
Sometimes it looks like we might be getting away with it, but we're not.
No. That's why it has to be grace. We can't cover our sins. There's nothing we can do, say, or anything. So, any questions or any comments or any?
Very good.
Well, we'll go on to 33 next week. We'll see what other mischief they get. Hi, Brother Bill. We're here. You're here tonight.
Verse 28, it said,
Uh-huh.